Okay, so I've got the camera mounted on the right side headset mount, and I'm using this bicycle handlebar. We'll talk about a little bit about that later, but we'll talk about the size and everything like that later. But then I've got the headset comms recorded with this cable adapter. So it's got a U174 in, and then this U174 out. Is plugging into the headset jack, and then there's then we got a 3.5 millimeter headphone jack that plugs into the GoPro external mic adapter, and this is just sort of a overview of everything in the headset. And then I'm running the camera off of external battery. So this USB cable is going to go into my external battery here. That's in my knee board, pocket in my knee board. So USB plugs in there. All right. So this is the R22 cockpit mount for my Hero 7 Black, and it's constructed from 5 millimeter Luan plywood that I got from Home Depot, and the dimensions of this are 6 inches in this dimension and 3 3/4 inches in this dimension. And on the top here, this is a GoPro bicycle handlebar mount, and I use it to clamp onto the headset hanger hook at the rear bulkhead on the R22. And it's got some sorbethane discs that clamp it there. And the reason why I'm using a bicycle handlebar clamp is that I noticed that in some videos that some people, when they just have a piece of sorbethane disc that they just kind of cut a slit into, and then they kind of work this onto the headset hanger. And then, but that kind of rotate this way. So when I look at some of their videos, it's not oriented kind of vertically all the time. I thought that this would have a better chance of keeping things oriented vertically. And while I'm mentioning that, the headset hanger is not parallel to the horizon. So you should have some adjustability for the angle of the camera to be able to correct for that. I've got a tripod mount, GoPro mount here that's screwed into this piece of wood, and I've got a little spacer here just because I wanted to space out the camera from the back of the plywood enough so that I could touch the back here. Now I also wanted to be able to see the image on the back here so that I could adjust the position and so forth. Now you can also adjust the position and make changes to the settings with the GoPro app if you pair the camera to the GoPro app. So that may not be as necessary, but I just wanted to space it out so I could have a little more room there. On the back here are some sorbethane hemispheres that I'll detail a little bit. And as I said, the sorbethane disc on the top. This is just a piece of the glove, because this sorbethane disc, the sorbethane at the beginning is pretty sticky, and so it was hard to slide these disc things on without it kind of sticking to the headset hanger. So I just cut off a finger off of a glove, and then that sort of slides on easier. Over time now, been using this for a while, and it's not quite as sticky anymore. All right, now into this GoPro, I'm using the external microphone adapter from GoPro. It's the the actual GoPro external mic adapter, and it has a USB-C connector that you plug into the USB-C port. And then on the bottom of this external microphone adapter, it's got a USB-C port and a 3.5 millimeter microphone jack. Into this USB-C port, I use an extension cable with a USB-C on one end and USB-A on the other end. And I've also noticed that at least in my cable, maybe this is a cheap cable or whatever, but it made a difference what direction I plugged the cable into. So on one side, it made it hard to turn on, or it didn't really want to turn on when I pressed the on and off button. And so I noticed that if I put the smooth side of this plug facing towards me into the USB-C port like this, that it worked better. Versus on the other side, there's a little joint. I don't know if you can see this very well, but there's a little joint there where it's joined together. Anyway, so put that sort of away from you. So that goes on the back. So if you put the smooth part going forward, it seems to work better. All right, and then the USB-A goes just into just external power bank battery. This happens to be a 5200 milliamp battery. It's got USB-A, micro USB to charge, and I flew the other day and for 1.1 hours, and I have 88% left. All right. Okay, so one of the other things that I wanted to mention is that in terms of determining the position between the headset hanger and the lens, I chose this distance based on where the lens position would be vertically, meaning that I wanted the lens to be at the same level as my eye, so that when the camera is recording my flight, that it's recording a similar view of the horizon as I would be looking at the cockpit. So when I'm sitting in the cockpit, my eye level, the horizon is about toward the top of the compass, maybe 3/4 of the way up the compass. But whatever it is for your height, then try to position the lens, or at least if you want to maintain that perspective, try position the lens vertically so that it's about the same level as your as eye level. And then you of course can verify that when you record. And so when you're looking at the recording, see whether the horizon looks the same in your video as the horizon looks when you're sitting in the cockpit. All right. Now, the two sorbethane items that I use are these hemispheres, and then the disc up here. So all right. So I purchased these from isolated.com. And the discs are a half inch thick and 1.5 inches in diameter. And the durometer is 50. So the disc durometer is 50. And then the hemispheres, these are 3/4 inch diameter hemispheres, and the durometer here is 30. Now the hemispheres I've got with PSA, which is the pressure sensitive adhesive. So these have adhesive, so that made it easy to just stick it onto the board. And by the way, the reason why I have 6 of them here is that originally I had 4, but on one of the cabins one of the R22 cabins that I was flying in, the back of the firewall wasn't flat. It was kind of curved, and so what was happening is it wasn't, this one wasn't touching anything. So I put additional two. So anyway, that's why there's six over here on the back of my board here. But I have pressure sensitive adhesive on the hemispheres so that I can just stick it onto the plywood. The disc, you'll see that there's this little pie shaped thing cut out, and that's because cutting this disc in half was too big for the bicycle mount. So I cut out this sort of wedge and sort of use that those little pieces in the handlebar mount. And she also mentioned that these discs are not parallel. There's a taper. There's a taper to the side of them. So I have the disc going in, the taper's in one direction, and then kind of switch it around so the taper's in the other direction, so that basically it makes the disc kind of parallel when it's sitting in this mount. All right. One other thing I want to mention is that I have the camera at this angle, and the angle that you set this at kind of depends on what your objective is. My objective was that I wanted to use these videos for education versus entertainment. So you probably see more of the people that are taking videos for entertainment. They have more of a view outside the windshield, but as far as like the scenery and so forth. But for me, I wanted to see the instruments, and I also wanted to see the controls. So I wanted to see the pedals, the cyclic, and the collective and throttle as much as I could. So that determines the position, or the angle anyway, of the camera. And so I just adjust this angle so that the top of the frame is just above the compass, so just above the compass card, and so around the top of the compass, or top of the compass card, and that allows me to see the instruments, and allows me to see the collective, or a little bit of the collective. If the collective is full down, it's kind of hard to see the whole thing, but I wanted to try to be able to see the collective movement. All right. So I've talked about this external microphone adapter, and this external microphone adapter has, as I mentioned, a 3.5 millimeter jack that I use to input the cockpit recording, and that adapter cable, I got it from crazedpilot.com, and I'll put a link also below. And it's called the 2018 helicopter recording cockpit adapter cable, and that has the U174 kind of in and out, and then it has the 3.5 millimeter jack that plugs in here. And then I also mentioned that this has a USB-C cable that I use with my external battery. And I also wanted to mention that I only run it with the external battery. I take out the internal GoPro battery, and the reason for that is that they don't work well together. So if you have the internal battery, then it doesn't use the external battery to kind of the full extent. So you have to take out the internal battery. Otherwise, even though you have an external battery plugged in, it's still going to die after a short period of time. So the internal battery is probably good for maybe an hour or less. But if you fly an hour or maybe more than an hour, the internal battery probably won't last. Whereas with the external battery, it just obviously depends on whatever capacity you have for the external battery, and so it can last quite a bit longer. And so I've flown 2-hour flights on the external battery, and on that 5200 milliamp battery, and I haven't even used not even half. It maybe went down to 70% or something like that. All right. Okay, so this is the Crazed Pilot headset adapter that records the comms and the intercom audio. And the way I use this is I'm using the startup checklist with this unplugged. So we're basically using the audio from the camera internal microphone. And then once we start the engines and we go to headsets, then I plug in the 3.5 millimeter plug into the external mic adapter for the GoPro Hero 7. And so that way I get the cockpit audio, or at least the instructions or what we're talking about before before we go to headsets, and then I get the comms and the intercom with the audio adapter.